If you're pregnant and looking for a safe, gentle, and incredibly effective way to stay active, relieve discomfort, and prepare your body for birth, this might be the game changer you've been waiting for. Today, we're diving into Swiss ball exercises, Fitball designed especially for moms-to-be movements that improve posture, release tension, and boost hip mobility while seated on the ball for pregnant women. Whether you're in your first trimester or just weeks away from meeting your baby, these simple yet powerful exercises can help you feel lighter, more flexible, and more confident every single day. Stay with us, because in just a few minutes, you'll discover how one soft round ball can transform the way you move, breathe, and prepare for the most important moment of your life. But before the video starts, write in the comments, from where you are watching this video, thank you. In a softly lit studio that smelled faintly of lavender and eucalyptus, sunlight streaming through tall windows and reflecting on the polished wooden floor, a group of women gathered in a semicircle, each one gently lowering herself onto a brightly colored inflatable sphere that seemed to hold both promise and curiosity in its rounded form, the object known in the fitness world as the Swiss ball, or more informally the Fitball. The instructor, a calm woman with the kind of grounded presence that made you instinctively trust her, began to speak in a low and steady voice, explaining that these sessions were not merely about exercise but about connection to one's body, to one's breath, and, for many of the women here, connection to the tiny life growing quietly inside them. She explained how Swiss ball exercises Fitball had long been used not just for strengthening muscles or improving balance, but also for encouraging gentle mobility and alignment in a way that respected the body's needs during pregnancy, offering support without unnecessary strain. One of the most important elements she would guide them through today, she said, was hip mobility, while seated on the ball for pregnant women, an approach that encouraged not only flexibility and comfort during the later months, but could also be beneficial in preparing the pelvis and lower back for the incredible transformative event of childbirth. She demonstrated by placing her feet flat on the floor, knees bent at a comfortable angle and rocking her hips forward and back in a slow, mindful rhythm, almost as if she were moving to the faint memory of a lullaby. The women followed, some cautiously at first, testing their balance, others more confidently, swaying in unison, creating a kind of silent dance that filled the room with a sense of unity. For Emma, who was in her third trimester, and feeling the simultaneous excitement and heaviness of late pregnancy, the movement was almost like a relief she didn't know she needed. Sitting on the Fitball made her feel supported but also free. The gentle bounce under her a reminder that her body was not rigid or trapped by discomfort, but could still move with grace. As she leaned slightly forward, feeling her hip joints open in tiny increments, she imagined the day she would meet her baby, and how these subtle movements might be part of the journey toward that moment. Her mind wandered briefly to the early weeks of pregnancy, when she had been too tired and uncertain to think about exercise, and she marveled at how far she had come, not just in terms of physical endurance but in her understanding of what it meant to care for herself fully. The instructor encouraged them to make each motion as intentional as possible, to feel the weight of the pelvis shifting over the base of support, to notice how even the smallest circles or tilts could ease tension from the lower spine. She explained that in pregnancy the joints and ligaments become more elastic due to hormonal changes, which was both a gift and a responsibility. A gift because it allowed for greater adaptability in preparation for birth, and a responsibility because it meant that movements needed to be performed with awareness to avoid overextension. The Swiss ball exercises Fitball, she emphasized, offered an ideal combination of stability and mobility, helping to maintain muscle tone while encouraging joint health. Around the room, soft breathing filled the air, a slow inhale and exhale pattern that seemed to sync naturally with the movements. The Fitball compressed slightly under each seated woman, absorbing and responding to the shifting weight in a way that made the activity feel organic, almost like floating. The women experimented with gentle side-to-side motions, exploring the edges of their balance without tipping into instability, and the instructor reminded them that this wasn't about pushing limits but about listening to the messages the body sent through sensation. In pregnancy, she explained, those messages could be subtle but deeply important, a tightness here, a stretch there, a wave of relief that let you know you were in the right position. Emma noticed that as her hips loosened, her breathing became deeper almost automatically, and she found herself imagining the way these movements might help her during labor. Perhaps in between contractions, she might find comfort in sitting on the ball, rocking, breathing, creating space in her pelvis for her baby's descent. The instructor spoke about this possibility to weaving in gentle stories of women who had used the ball not just for prenatal exercise, but during early labor, finding in its rounded shape a kind of friend who didn't judge or tire but simply offered support. They shifted into another exercise, this time small hip circles, each rotation slow and deliberate, tracing the outline of an invisible clock. The motion was hypnotic, the rhythm soothing, and the instructor encouraged them to imagine their hips drawing patterns in the air, patterns that spoke of openness and preparation. This, she explained, was not merely a physical routine but a mental one, training the mind to associate movement with relaxation, to welcome rather than resist the sensations of stretching and change. The hip mobility while seated on the ball for pregnant women was in her view as much about confidence as it was about flexibility. Because a body that feels safe will respond more openly when the time comes for it to perform its most natural work. The session flowed from one movement to another. Gentle pelvic tilts, light bouncing to engage the core muscles without strain, and stretches that incorporated the upper body so the spine felt lengthened and free. The Fitball's surface gave just enough instability to engage the postural muscles continuously, even in stillness, and the instructor pointed out how this subtle engagement could help alleviate common discomforts like lower back pain or stiffness in the hips. She reminded them that the ball could be used at home as well, not just in a guided class, and that incorporating even 5 to 10 minutes of Swiss ball exercises, Fitball, into their daily routine could make a tangible difference in comfort and mobility during pregnancy. As the class neared its end, the women slowed their movements, resting their hands lightly on their knees, feeling the slight bounce of the ball beneath them as they inhaled and exhaled. The instructor encouraged them to take this sense of grounded movement into the rest of their day, to remember that their bodies were capable and wise. Emma smiled softly to herself, feeling a warmth in her chest that wasn't just from the exercise but from the realization that she was part of a quiet, powerful tradition. Women supporting their bodies and their babies through mindful movement, preparing for one of life's most profound journeys, not with force or resistance, but with grace, breath, and the gentle rhythm of a ball beneath them. Outside the studio, the late morning sun was bright but gentle, and as Emma walked to her car she could still feel the echo of the movements in her hips, a reminder that her body was not just carrying life, but was alive in its own right, responsive, adaptable, and ready for what lay ahead. She resolved to continue these exercises at home, maybe even introduce her partner to some of them, so he could be part of this quiet ritual. In her mind, the image of the ball, round and full of potential, merged with the image of her growing belly, and she felt a deep, grounding gratitude for the connection between them.